I'm Nikita Turk.
And I'm Sally French.
And today we are answering your Reddit questions about group travel. I feel like adding other people into the mix of travel just adds a whole bunch of layers of complication.
It adds a lot of complication. It adds a lot of fun. We're going to make this work.
Absolutely. Splitting travel costs between friends. How do you recommend that? Do you just go 50-50 or how do you kind of look at that?
Yeah, so this really depends on your friend group and your friend style. So some people like to add up all the costs and they'll make a spreadsheet of who paid for what. So you paid for the hotel and I paid for all the airfares and we're going to add it up and then divide the money down the road and split it evenly. There's other people who say, you know what, I'm going to handle the food, I'll handle the hotels, and I'll handle the flights. It's really up to you, but make sure that you communicate with your group. That's key in avoiding any challenges down the road.
And how do you recommend people split up that money?
Yeah, so there are a couple ways to do this. You could just pay each other in actual cash, but luckily in this day and age, there are many tools that make it easy to send money to friends. There's tools like Venmo or Zelle where you can connect your bank accounts and then add someone as your friend. You can send them money really easily, and typically it's an instant transfer.
Yeah, and usually there's not a fee if it's a friend, right?
Right, exactly.
While trips with friends are meant to be fun, you shouldn't feel pressured to break the bank to make them happen. Nearly 40% of Americans have overspent to impress others, but try to avoid that pitfall. When traveling with friends, make sure you set expectations up front. Advice for traveling internationally with friends for the first time. I feel like that in itself is so such a big step in a relationship.
For the first time adds a whole nother layer because international travel can be complicated. There's so much to worry about in ensuring that you have your passport on time, and keep in mind that the time to apply for a passport or even to renew an existing passport that's been expired can be months and months. So if you are traveling with a group, make sure that everyone's got their ducks in a row.
I feel like money is another one to figure out, right?
Definitely. You don't need to plan months ahead, but you do need to plan ahead in terms of, particularly for international travel, how you're going to convert your currency. So what I typically recommend is skipping the airport currency exchange. They have pretty terrible exchange rates. Now, if you're in a rut and you need to get currency in that foreign country, then you might have to go to the airport, but you can plan ahead and order currency from your bank. It's always good to arrive at a country with its currency on hand, particularly if you're at the airport, you need to jump in the taxi. You might not have a taxi that accepts credit cards. They might be cash only. So you want to make sure that you have some amount of cash. Other things to note is just, is your credit card going to be accepted in that foreign country? Because we see that not every network is accepted. You also want to understand those currency conversion fees, because typically if you pay in a US dollar, if you're an American citizen, and you're paying in a foreign country, you'll be hit with a currency conversion fee unless you opt to pay with that foreign currency. And finally, you also want to make sure that you have a credit card with no foreign transaction fees. Foreign transaction fees can be 3% of your overall purchase. And the good news is that there are many credit cards that have no foreign transaction fees and no annual fee. Of course, if you're not in a position to apply for a new credit card, which might be you, the good thing about a group trip is that maybe someone else in your group has that. So communicate with them and see if you can pay with their credit card and pay them back in US dollars upon return. That said, my advice for traveling with a group is the same pretty much whether you're going internationally or domestically, and that's communicating about what your plans are. What is everyone's budget? What is everyone willing to spend money on? Be okay splitting up. So if one couple wants to go to a big expensive dinner, the rest of the couples don't need to feel like they actually need to go on that dinner.
I think that right there is key. I feel like sometimes when your friends are involved, people feel pressured to do a thing, but they're your friends. You don't have to impress them with your overspending.
Absolutely. And your friends are always going to be there. So if you skip one dinner because it's too expensive, you will be okay.
Traveling with others can multiply the fun, but it also multiplies the number of logistics you need to put into place. Booking in advance can help ensure you and your travel mates get the hotel and flight that you want, and gives you a better shot of finding something that works for everyone. We are now moving on to family travel. I'm excited about this question because one of the things that bonded Sally and I is our mutual love for Disney. But let's be real, a Disney trip is not the cheapest thing. So this first question, are there any tips for saving money on a Disney trip?
Well, I hope you know, not only do we both love Disney, I was actually at Disney last week, so I've got all the tricks for you. So as far as your first step is probably getting tickets, there are ways that you can get discount tickets. Look to the membership programs you belong to. So sometimes you can find discount tickets through something like AAA or Costco, even if you have a corporate membership program. But one of my favorite tricks for getting discount Disney tickets is to purchase gift cards at Target on a Target Red Card, which is either a debit card or a credit card. Because when you purchase with one of these cards, you get an instant 5% off, and you don't just need to use those gift cards to buy tickets, but you can use this for souvenirs and for food. One of the next things to consider is that hotel. Typically, on-property Disney-owned hotels are much more expensive than those off-property hotels. And, sometimes it's worth it. You're closer to the parks. You get benefits, like you get to enter early, you're surrounded in that Disney bubble the whole time. But some of the off-property hotels, not only are they significantly cheaper, but they typically participate in points and miles programs where you can accrue points for those stays. You can use your existing points to book stays. Typically, they'll have other benefits like free breakfast, and many of them have the Mickey Mouse waffles for free. Some partner Disney hotels actually offer some of the same benefits like shuttles, early entry.
So you were talking about hotels. Do you feel like a hotel near Disney is a better move than, say, like an Airbnb or some other rental home?
So NerdWallet analyzed Airbnb prices, and what NerdWallet found is that hotels are cheaper than Airbnbs when you're staying just one night, but as soon as you start to stay longer, so 7 nights or even a whole month if you can stay that long, what NerdWallet found is that Airbnbs are cheaper than hotels on average, and a big reason for that is actually cleaning fees. Most vacation rental services will charge a cleaning fee, and this is a one-time fee. So whether you're staying 1 night or 7 nights or 30 nights, it's just the single fee, which means that you can really save when you split that fee into 7 or 30 nights. Another time where we find that vacation rentals are almost always cheaper is if you're traveling with a large group. Hotels tend to be cheaper if it's just a couple and you're booking one room, but if you can stay in a vacation rental that has 6 or more people, that will typically be cheaper on average than booking 3 different hotel rooms that 2 people each stay in.
This is a very intimidating one for a lot of parents. Any tips for traveling with a toddler on an airplane for the first time?
Yes, traveling with children can certainly be difficult, but there are some things that people don't realize you can do to make it easier. So one of them is family boarding. Many airlines offer this as a benefit, Southwest Airlines being one of them, where they'll let you board early. So if you're not familiar with the Southwest boarding style, it's kind of chaotic depending on who you ask, but you're assigned a boarding number and then you just pick any available seat. Now this can be really stressful if you need to sit next to your toddler and there are no seats next to each other because you're all in this C boarding group. This is an opportunity to take advantage of that family boarding because you'll be one of the first people on the plane. Another thing to consider is that many airlines will offer you the option to choose your seat in advance, but for a fee. So what we see is a lot of families will pay that extra fee to guarantee that I get to sit next to my 5-year-old as a parent. But there are some airlines, including Alaska, American, and Frontier, and they have made a promise that any child under 13 can sit next to their parent, no matter the airfare class, at no additional cost.
Make your little 6-year-old ride alone on the plane.
And quite frankly, I don't want to sit next to someone else's unattended 4-year-old, so I appreciate that the parent can sit next to them.
Me too. For the kiddos, make sure you pack lots of their favorite snacks and an assortment of small activities to keep them entertained. Planning around bed and nap times can be a big help too in avoiding sleepiness-induced meltdowns. This is a good one. It's asking about older adults. Are there tips for traveling with an elderly parent?
Yeah, well, I'll say I love to travel with my parents. It's a great memory maker, but of course it can be challenging. And I'm the person who likes to take 40,000 steps on my trip to Disney World each day, and my parents are not down for that. So sort of going back to what we talked about earlier, it's okay to split up. And if you can make a plan that we'll all meet together for dinner, but we'll go our separate ways during the day, that can be a really, really good way to make sure that everyone gets what they want out of the trip, and then you can come together and share stories. activities. Another thing to consider is simply the nature of your trip, and there are some trips that are more conducive to large multi-generational families versus others. So this is one opportunity where you might consider something like an all-inclusive or a cruise, because everyone can again go their separate ways and do whatever activity that they want, but ultimately everyone is still in the same property together.
I love that. I travel with my parents and my little nieces and nephews, and the span of people, the span of ages between those groups of people is really extreme. So when you can find a place that satisfies everyone, makes your vacation an actual vacation.
And where is your top place to do that?
We like to go to like lakes. We like the outdoorsy sort of things.
I love it.
The kids can play outside. And
so fun, so relaxing.
there's one more takeaway from group travel in general that you want folks to take. What would that be?
Ooh, I think we've already said it so many times, is communicate. And communicate around what you're okay paying. It's much better to have that conversation ahead of time than to have this super expensive dinner bill and then to have the conversation after the bill has been charged about who's paying for it. So do that stuff ahead of time. And similarly, in the vein of communication, understand that it is perfectly okay to split up. One of my favorite group trips I ever did was with my sister, my mom, and me and my partner. I'm the person who I said I like to take my 40,000 steps each day. So we went to Cinque Terre in Italy, and I hiked to all 5 cities, and I did 25 miles that day.
Wow.
Meanwhile, my sister drank some wine on a boat, great for her. My mom went shopping, great for her. And we all had a perfect day. We came home that evening and could exchange stories.
Sally French, thanks so much for hanging out with me. It's
Thank
always a
you.
blast.
This was fun. Let's do a trip together.
Oh, yes. I don't know that I can do her number of steps.
You don't
but
want to do 40,000
I don't think I want to do
steps?
40,000 steps or 25,000 or 25 miles.
25 miles. Let's do it.
Yes.